today we're going to be talking about something that I think is on a lot of people's minds, financial freedom.
Definitely.
And to help us unpack all of that, we've got a really interesting source to work with. It's actually by a guy who says he became a millionaire in his 20s.
Oh, wow.
And he lays out his path in like 5 really clear steps. So let's take a deep dive and see what we can learn.
Yeah,
right?
let's do it.
So
I think one of the coolest things about this video is that it starts by acknowledging that financial freedom, it really isn't one size fits all.
Right.
It's about like figuring out what freedom actually looks like for you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where this whole idea of a freedom figure comes into play.
Yeah, so it's not just following like generic advice, right? You have to figure out what your goals are first.
Exactly.
So how does this whole freedom figure thing actually work?
Well, it starts with figuring out your annual expenses.
Okay.
How much do you spend each year?
Got it.
And the video uses an example of someone in their 20s living a pretty comfortable lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And they estimate it to cost around like $75,000 a year.
Okay.
But of course, you know, your number might be totally different depending on your own like needs and wants.
Yeah, for sure.
And once you've got that annual expense figure, that's where this rule of 25 comes in.
Okay.
You multiply your annual expenses by 25, and that's supposed to give you your freedom figure, so the amount you need to have invested to like generate enough passive income to cover your expenses.
So that's a pretty straightforward calculation, but I am kind of curious, like why 25? Is there some magical financial formula behind that number?
Well, it's basically based on the idea of like withdrawing 4% of your investments each year without depleting your principal.
Okay.
And historically, the S&P 500, you know, its average returns higher than 4%. But this rule kind of aims for like a more conservative approach,
Got it.
just to make sure that like your money actually lasts.
Yeah, so it's about sustainability, not being overly optimistic.
Right, exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But the video also goes into like specific ways to actually reach that freedom figure, right?
Absolutely. So step 2 focuses on something they call hacking your life.
Okay.
And I mean, personally, I'm not really a fan of that term, but I do think they make some good points about optimizing your spending.
Okay, so it's not about being like super deprived.
No.
It's about making smart choices.
Exactly.
I like it. So what are some of the hacks that they highlight?
Well, one of the first things they talk about is car expenses. They
Yeah.
basically point out that car payments, they can be a huge drain on your finances,
Oh, for sure.
especially when you consider like depreciation.
Yeah.
Like new cars lose value so quickly. They actually even mentioned the average monthly car payment for new vehicles in 2024. And it's, get this, $734.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of money every month.
It is. So their solution basically is to buy a good quality used car.
Okay.
So you're not taking that initial depreciation hit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you can often resell it later for, you know, close to what you paid for it.
I've always been a bit wary of buying used, but I can definitely see the financial logic there.
Yeah, definitely. Another hack they talk about is brand hacking,
Okay, interesting.
which is like choosing generic brands or store brand products over, you know, those big name brands.
Oh, yeah.
They gave a really funny example comparing like Cocoa Pops to a store brand version.
Okay.
The generic one was like literally less than half the price, and it had almost double the quantity.
Wow. I mean, I'm all about saving money, but sometimes those generic brands just aren't as good, you know?
Yeah, totally. The taste and quality, sometimes it's just not there.
Right.
But, you know, their point is that it's worth trying, you know, see where you can find good alternatives without like sacrificing too much.
I can do that.
And those little savings, they really add up over time.
Yeah, for sure. Every little bit counts.
Right. So the next hack is what they call house hacking,
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting.
which, I mean, it sounds kind of intense, but basically it's about generating rental income
Yeah.
to like offset your housing costs.
Got it.
Like they suggest maybe considering buying a duplex or something with like an extra room to rent out.
So you're basically becoming a landlord.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
But they also acknowledge that not everyone wants to like buy property.
Right.
So they suggest things like using Airbnb, maybe renting out a room, or even your whole place for short periods.
I mean, that could work for some people, but personally, I think I value my privacy a bit too much to have like random strangers in my place all the time.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
They actually shared a story about a guy who covered his entire rent by just renting out his London flat for 10 days a month
Oh, wow.
while he stayed with his girlfriend.
Okay, so it's about finding what works for you
Exactly.
and your circumstances.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so I'm seeing a theme here. It's like thinking outside the box to stretch your budget.
Right. And being like proactive about your money.
I like it. Okay, so what's the next hack.
Okay, the next one is tax hacking, which sounds, I don't know, maybe a little intimidating, but they say it's totally legal.
Okay, so we're not talking about anything shady here.
Yes. No, not at all.
It's just about understanding how taxes work.
Right.
And taking advantage of any like legal deductions or anything.
Exactly. They really emphasize like knowing the tax rules wherever you live.
Right.
And making sure you're not overpaying, like exploring deductions if you have a side hustle, or maybe taking advantage of tax advantage savings accounts.
That's a good reminder to do your research, right?
Yes.
And make sure you're not like missing out on anything.
Exactly.
And it's probably always a good idea to talk to a professional if you're not sure about something, right?
Oh, absolutely. Better to be safe than sorry when it comes to taxes.
Agreed. Okay, so before we move on, what's the last hack they talk about?
Okay, last but not least, they have deal hacking, which is all about like the art of negotiation.
Ooh, interesting.
They basically say like never accept the first price you're offered, whether it's for, I don't know, a car, furniture, even like negotiating your salary.
I mean, that's easier said than done. I'm not really a natural negotiator, to be honest. Do they have any tips?
Yeah, they do. They say the most important thing is to do your research beforehand.
Okay.
So you actually know like the market value of whatever you're buying.
Okay.
And when it comes to like buying a car, they suggest getting quotes from different dealerships.
Okay.
And then using those to kind of like leverage a better deal.
So it's about being prepared and not being afraid to walk away.
Right, exactly. And they also suggest checking out those online car buying services like Carvana or CarMax just to get a sense of what your current car is actually worth.
Those are good tips. I'm starting to feel a little more confident in my negotiating skills already.
Good.
Yeah.
They also mentioned that timing can be really important too.
Okay.
Like end of month sales targets can often lead to, better deals.
Makes sense. The salespeople are trying to hit their quotas. I like it. Okay, so we've covered all the hacks. What's next in their plan?
All right, step 3 might surprise you. It's getting a credit card.
Wait, hold on. I thought credit cards were like the enemy of financial freedom. Isn't that how people get into debt?
Yeah, that's a common misconception.
Okay.
This video actually kind of debunks the myth that they're inherently bad.
Okay.
They say that they can actually be really useful for building your credit as long as you use them responsibly.
Okay, so it's not about avoiding them completely,
No, not at all.
but using them strategically.
Exactly.
I like it. And they really stress like keeping your balances low.
Yes.
And paying off your card in full every month.
Very important.
To avoid those interest charges.
Right.
So is a good credit score like a golden ticket in the financial world? Like what kind of benefits does it actually offer?
Well, a good credit score, it can get you lower interest rates on loans, which can save you a ton of money in the long run.
Okay.
They actually use the example of buying a house. If you have good credit, you're more likely to get approved for a mortgage with a lower interest rate, which means you'll pay less overall.
Wow, I never really thought about it like that. That's a really compelling reason to try to build good credit.
It is. It's not just about buying things, it's about your overall financial health.
I'm officially on board with the credit card strategy, as long as I'm being responsible, of course.
Of course. Always be responsible.
So what's the next step in their financial freedom plan?
Step 4 is all about creating an additional income stream.
Okay.
They use a really good analogy here. They compare your income to a stool with only one leg.
Oh.
If you're only relying on your job, that's kind of a risky situation.
Yeah, if you lose your job, the whole stool collapses.
Exactly. And they say that secure jobs just aren't as common anymore.
That's true.
And that most people will probably have like multiple jobs throughout their lifetime.
Yeah, probably.
So diversifying your income, it's really important.
Okay, so what's the best way to do that? Like, do they have any suggestions for creating these additional income streams?
Yeah, they suggest exploring things like side hustles, things that use your existing skills and interests.
Right.
They mentioned affiliate marketing, freelancing, even like starting an e-commerce business, or maybe even like more traditional gigs like window cleaning or car detailing.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, totally. But, they kind of anticipate the whole I'm too busy excuse.
Right.
So they break down like the 168 hours we all have in a week, and even with a full-time job, there's still time for a side hustle.
If you're committed enough.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing and making time.
Okay, no more excuses for me. I'm going to find my side hustle superpower.
That's the spirit. So step 5 is all about like really understanding how money works.
Okay.
They talk about the differences in mindset between poor people, middle-class people, and rich people when it comes to their finances.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, they explain that, like poor people, they tend to see money as something to just pay bills and fund their current lifestyle,
Yeah.
And middle-class people, they often focus on building credit to buy bigger houses and nicer cars.
Okay.
But rich people, they understand that the real purpose of money is expansion.
Expansion.
Yeah, like using your money to make more money.
Okay, so not just earning more, but making your money work for you.
Yes, exactly. Primarily through like passive income streams.
Right, so they don't just work for their money works for them.
Exactly. And the video really emphasizes that once you have like some extra income coming in, you should start thinking bigger.
Okay.
Not necessarily about like a bigger lifestyle, but about how you can use your money to create wealth.
Got it. So what kind of passive income streams do they actually recommend?
Well, they start with index funds, specifically the S&P 500.
Okay.
They point out like its historical performance and how easy it is to invest in it through platforms like Trading 212. Or you can even start with like a small amount of money.
I've heard a lot about index funds. They seem to be pretty popular.
Yeah, they are.
What makes them so appealing?
Well, one of the biggest things is that they allow you to diversify your investments across a bunch of different companies.
Okay, so it's less risky than, say, investing in individual stocks.
Yeah, it spreads the risk out more.
Okay, so what other passive income streams do they talk about?
They also mention cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
Acknowledging, that they can have really high growth potential, but also that they're very volatile.
Right.
They suggest investing a small percentage of your portfolio in like the well-known coins like Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Okay.
But they do emphasize that you should only invest what you're prepared to potentially lose.
Right. It's a high risk, high reward kind of thing.
Exactly. And then finally, they mention real estate as like the ultimate wealth builder. While it does require a bigger upfront investment, it has the potential to generate passive income through rental properties or even those house hacking strategies we talked about earlier.
Okay, so index funds, crypto, and real estate, it sounds like there are a lot of options for putting your money to work and creating more income.
Yeah, there really are. The key is to do your research and understand the risks and potential rewards of each one.
Right. It's not just about jumping on the latest trend.
No, definitely not.
It's about making informed choices based on your individual goals and risk tolerance.
Exactly.
So, to sum it all up, we've got the 5 steps to financial freedom. Figure out your freedom figure, hack your life, get a credit card, create additional income streams, and then use your money for expansion. That's a pretty awesome and actionable plan.
It is. And what I think is really great about this video is that it's based on someone's real life experience,
Right.
It's not just theoretical, it's a roadmap that's actually been proven to work.
Yeah, that's really inspiring.
Right. It shows that financial freedom is attainable for anyone who's willing to put in the work.
And it all starts with taking that first step.
Absolutely. And speaking of first steps, the video mentions that you can start investing with as little as £1 on platforms like Trading 212.
That's a great point. You don't need a ton of money to start investing.
Right. You can start building your financial future today, even with a small amount.
So what's one small step that you can take today to put these principles into action?
Yeah, what can you do?
It could be anything, like researching side hustles, creating a budget, or even just starting to explore investment options. The important thing is to take that first step.
And start building momentum towards the future you want.
That's all for our deep dive into the world of financial freedom for today. We hope you learned something new and that you feel empowered to take control of your finances.
Remember, it's not about overnight success. It's about consistent effort and a smart strategy.
And as always, the most important investment you can make is in yourself.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for the financial freedom you deserve.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep reaching for those stars.
See you next time.
Yeah.
It's really about like empowering yourself and taking control.
Yeah, totally. This deep dive has been so interesting for me. I feel like I'm seeing things in a whole new way.
Yeah, me too.
I've gained like a whole new perspective on like money.
That's the exciting thing about these kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
It's not just about the numbers. It's about like how you think about money, right?
Right.
It's about going from being like a consumer to being an investor.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Going from feeling trapped to feeling free.
That's a good way to put it.
Like it's a tool.
Yeah, that mindset shift is huge.
It really is.
I think that's like the biggest thing I've learned from this video.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
It's really the foundation of like everything else.
Yeah.
Once you start seeing money as a tool for building the life you want, things change.
Yeah, it's like a whole new world opens up.
Exactly. And that's what this video does so well.
Yeah, it does.
It challenges us to, like, rethink things.
Yeah, totally. I feel like we've covered all the main points.
Yeah, we've gone through the 5 steps.
Debunked some myths.
Definitely.
Got some really good insights.
I hope our listeners are feeling inspired.
I know I am. What stood out to you the most from this video?
Good question. I think the thing that really stuck with me was the emphasis on, like, small, consistent actions, you know?
Yeah.
The video doesn't really preach extreme frugality or anything like that.
Right.
It's more about, like, finding ways to generate a little extra income and making small changes.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, and then putting that money to work through investing.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right?
Exactly. Every little bit counts.
Yeah. So to wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay, shoot.
Remember how they talked about starting small with investing?
Yeah, even just a few bucks.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what I want you to consider. What one small step could you take today
Right now.
to put these principles into action?
Ooh, that's a good one. It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Like researching a side hustle, making a budget, or even just like looking into different investment options.
Yeah,
The
totally.
main thing is just to do something.
Take that first step.
Yeah, start building that momentum towards the future you want.
That's all for this part of our deep dive into financial freedom.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
We hope you've learned something valuable and that you feel ready to take control of your financial future.
Remember, it's not about overnight success.
It's about putting in the effort consistently and being smart about your choices.
And as always, the best investment you can make is in yourself.
Yeah, keep learning and growing.
And keep reaching for those financial goals.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
And keep aiming for the stars.
See you then. You know what I was thinking about?
What's that?
Like this whole idea of financial freedom, it's not really just about like hitting some magic number in your bank account.
No, totally. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, it's about feeling in control and being able to, make choices and actually build the life that you want.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not about depriving yourself either.
Right.
It's about having your money work for you
Yeah.
so that you can have more freedom.
Which brings me to a question I had about that rule of 25 thing.
Okay.
So we talked about how it's based on like withdrawing 4% each year.
Right. The 4% rule.
Yeah. But are there any like downsides to that approach or like things you have to watch out for?
Yeah. I mean, one thing to keep in mind is that 4% rule is based on like historical data
Okay.
from the stock market. And there's really no guarantee that, future returns will be the same.
Yeah, that's true. You never know what's going to happen in the market.
Exactly. And another thing to think about is that, like, the 4% rule, it kind of assumes that your expenses are going to stay pretty stable, like in retirement, let's say. So if you have, like, big changes in your spending, you might need to adjust that withdrawal rate.
So it's not just like a one-time calculation and you're done.
No, you got to keep an eye on things.
Got it. So you have to stay flexible.
Exactly. And it's important to, like, factor in things like inflation, too.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And, tax laws could change.
Right.
So there are a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of things we were talking about earlier, you mentioned that you were really interested in those index funds.
Yeah, I am.
Can you tell me a bit more about why those stood out to you?
Well, like you said before, I like that you're basically spreading your investment across like a ton of different companies, which just feels a lot less risky to me than like picking individual stocks.
Right. So it's more of a balanced approach.
Yeah, exactly. Although,
Yeah.
I mean, there are always exceptions.
Of course.
It really depends on your own risk tolerance.
Okay. So it's really about like figuring out what works for you. Been doing your research.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of research, it's worth pointing out that there are different ways to actually like approach index fund investing too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some people, they just kind of track a specific index, like keep it really simple.
Okay.
But other people, they're more active, like they try to beat the market.
I didn't realize there was that much variation within index funds.
There is. And it really just depends on like your own preferences, how much time you want to spend on it, and, your risk tolerance.
Makes sense. So like we've been saying this whole time, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
No.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly.
And I think that's a great takeaway from this whole video.
Yeah, definitely.
It's about taking control, educating yourself,
Yeah.
and making choices that are right for your situation.
Love it. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah, we have. We've talked about like the basic steps to financial freedom, how important your mindset is, and, all about making smart investments.
So, hopefully everyone listening feels a bit more confident now.
Yeah.
About taking those first steps towards reaching their financial goals.
Absolutely. So just remember, the journey starts with a single step.
Even a small one.
So what will yours be?
Think about it, everyone.
If you want to completely transform your life and become a better version of yourself, then you must watch this next video.